My family and I are happy for the opportunity to wish St. Lucians at home and abroad good health, security, and despite the storm clouds, a prosperous 2022. The Christmas season is normally about spending time with family, relatives, and close friends, a time for renewing and strengthening bonds. But these are not normal times. Regrettably, this past season was for many a time for mourning loved ones past. Our hearts continue to grieve for all who have been lost. I want to give thanks to my second family, the people of Micoud South, my constituency. I thank you especially for your kind prayers and for taking time out to deliver personal good wishes to my wife and my family. May God continue to bless you all. As the new year begins, the threats to our existence are all too stark. Considering the chaotic mismanagement of COVID-19's fourth wave, we can only hope lessons have been learned ahead of the inevitable fifth wave. As I speak, we've lost over 300 lives, most of those deaths, unfortunately, occurring in the latter part of 2021. There is yet no light at the end of the tunnel. The number of active cases has reached nearly 2,500. We all now know that the SLP administration never had a plan to address COVID-19. Even while they sat in opposition, watching us manage COVID-19 for 18 months and participated in NEMAC meetings, they seemingly learned nothing. 6 months later, they still want us to believe that doing nothing is actually a plan. The deadly situation is made worse with the government's communications department dismissing citizens' complaints with the heartless announcement that it was not her job to clarify confusing COVID-19 protocols. Well, fighting COVID-19 is everyone's job. The world has now embraced the strategy that we set out in March of 2020, that we have to coexist with COVID. We must have a balance between lives and livelihoods. St. Lucia's Chief Medical Officer and all of our health professionals are fighting the good fight. They deserve our full encouragement, our full support. We need to show them our appreciation, not just in our words, but in our deeds. We will continue to support and advocate for greater support for healthcare workers and push for the continuation of our policies, such as extending the duty-free concessions to frontline workers. To effectively address the COVID-19 spike, we require a coherent strategy. We need to urgently step up the vaccination drive. We must meet people wherever they are to administer vaccines. There needs to be a reinvigorated national effort with a greater sense of urgency in dealing with Delta, Omicron, and other variants to come. Our administration had set up the COVID-19 Command Center to analyze data, anticipate, make useful recommendations, engage stakeholders, and share information with the public. We now know this is not how things are being done. Cabinet has all of a sudden become the oracle on COVID management. Recently, the chairman of the Command Center, curiously renamed the Management Center, issued to The Voice the following shocking statement, and I quote, "What is required is that the government be upfront with the people and share reasons for their decisions, the assumptions that drive them, the likely risk involved in the unintended outcomes, and how they will be addressed. In other words, full transparency is the best policy." End of quote. Mr. Springer could not be more correct. We can only hope the government also recognizes the truth in Mr. Springer's published recommendations. If the government is continuing as if it is business as usual, what example is that setting for the people? The purpose of the state of emergency and curfews when we were in office was to remind people that we were in a crisis. We need this heightened level of awareness so we don't let our guard down. The COVID-19 measures over the holiday season were ill-informed and irresponsible. Now that it's begun to spread, There's still been no changes to the protocols or improved enforcement, and the delicate balance between lives and livelihoods is at risk. While in government, we involved the then opposition in the decision-making process through the meetings of NEMAC. However, the present SLP administration has never attempted to consult us in opposition, despite our past experience of managing COVID-19 outbreaks successfully. Thankfully, we're not an opposition that sits on our hands, waiting for invitations to contribute to our country's welfare. We will take every opportunity to do everything in our power and fight to keep St. Lucia healthy. Again, I implore all St. Lucians to get vaccinated. For all of our sakes, take your booster shots. We've seen that the vaccination can reduce dramatically the impact of COVID-19 and lessen the risk of death. Given the number of people with underlying conditions in this country, being unvaccinated is putting yourself, your families, and your country at risk. On the many occasions I addressed you as St. Lucia's Prime Minister, I underscored our resilience as a people. We spent time as a government ensuring St. Lucia has the ability to recover from shocks. We understood that the world was rapidly changing and sought to control as much as possible our own destiny. We spent time rebuilding our nation's image to ensure St. Lucia was seen as a success. We developed a medium-term development strategy, which formed part of a longer-term roadmap that focused on building capacity, both physical and human. We grew the sinking fund, established the economic fund. The investments we attracted were all part of the effort to strengthen St. Lucia's resilience. The infrastructure projects, in particular the improvements in our road networks, the airport project, water projects, and our emphasis on developing the South, were essential to our nation's growth. We need to see the continuation of the Millennium Highway West Coast Road Rehabilitation Project, the continued reconstruction of the Cul-de-sac Bridge and the Rodney Bay Road Improvements Project. The so-called investigations will do nothing except unnecessarily stall important projects, cause them to go into the usual SLP cost overruns, and put more St. Lucians on the breadline. The St. Jude Hospital project continues to be a sensitive matter to our people. Sadly, the Prime Minister has announced the use of the old building, already declared unfit and too costly by experts, for the purposes of a hospital. The people of the South deserve a world-class facility, to be as good or better than OKEU. We'd already outlined detailed plans to move into the newly built structure. The staff of the St. Jude are expecting to move into improved circumstances. They too must have been disappointed by the government's contrary announcement. The problems associated with the structure proposed by the Prime Minister have been well documented. Low ceilings, poor ventilation and lighting, electrical wires mixed with the plumbing system. Another disaster waiting to happen. Anyone who goes to the site can see for themselves which direction the government should adopt. I call on the Prime Minister to reconsider this decision, and our party will have much more to say about this matter very soon. Over the next few years, our resilience will be greatly tested. In 2021, we experienced in this country an information war without precedence. We wasted much valuable time addressing fake information based on blatant lies and designed to take advantage of the people's emotions. Notwithstanding Marcel Achard's observation, and I quote, "The bedfellows politics made are never strange. It only seems that way to those who have not watched the courtship." End of quote. Come July 26, 2021, many of us doubted our eyes at the sight of stop-at-nothing politicians consummating their under-the-table relationships in their king-sized bed. Talk about unholy alliances. We will need to watch closely the developments within the current administration and guard our country's reputation lest we all suffer again consequences experienced in 1979 or worse. Take the pattern of behavior. The disregard for the Constitution with the confinement order. The amendment to the Economic Fund to give Cabinet total control. We have the Rovergate, with the unprecedented act of a sitting Prime Minister front and center as a case against his minister is withdrawn with zero explanation, thereby bringing the reputation and integrity of our institutions into disrepute. We have public threats being made by the Prime Minister and ministers to shut down radio stations that don't sing their tune. We have seen political hacks who've once passed themselves off as journalists publicly threatening people's lives. We've hard-working citizens of the country being dismissed from their jobs because they are seen as United Workers' Party supporters. Let's not forget how they demonized foreign investment, demonized tourism, pit us against each other, divided us with talk of 2 St. Lucias and racism. They knew better. And now, barely 6 months in, and the writing is already on the wall. The big lie is being unraveled. In a recent speech, President Biden said, "You cannot love your country only when you win." United Workers' Party has always put our country ahead of all other considerations. We call on all citizens, regardless of affiliation, to help us to be the watchdogs of our country. We can all agree that politics has divided us, that we've never been as polarized as we are now. Let us come to terms with this regrettable fact. If indeed we are to fight for something, let us fight together for the survival of our country. Because if we are not especially careful, we will lose the gains already made. I've said before, we will support the administration when it is working in the interest of our country. However, this should not be taken to mean we will stand idly by while projects which will benefit this country are tossed aside. We made great strides in the development of the IT sector, and with the expanded international BPO sector. We brought in OJO, ITEL BPO, and were instrumental in thousands of solutions gaining employment in these and other related industries. Even during COVID-19, these young people kept their jobs. In fact, the BPO sector was able to absorb hotel workers affected by the pandemic. We wish to see further development of this sector, especially in the South. We stand behind the hotel projects we initiated, such as Cabot, the Marriott Courtyard at Point Seraphin, the Hyatt in Sabocha, Galaxy in Vieux Fort, and the DSH project, just to name a few. I must mention our successful ongoing Daher Mall project in the north and the further development of our local manufacturing sector with several local manufacturers facilitated by our efforts planning expansions this year. We encourage the continuation of village tourism to benefit communities on the east and west coast, and the redevelopment of Castries, in particular the Castries market. Our upgrading of our sports facilities must continue. The young athletes are already showing major promise at our nation's first sports academy. They too need further support. Now you all know, I love the creative sector. I was pleased even during COVID with the engagement in virtual activities that benefited so many. Pre-COVID, we were due to have one of the best carnival and summer festivals in our country's history. We took independence celebrations to another level and did not allow the pandemic to prevent us from marking the occasion. Hence, Playlist 42, which showcased incredible local talent. We're also able to put incentives in place for the industry and look forward to the plan or scheduling of activities to benefit our creatives. We began to develop the agro-processing sector, trained scores of new young farmers, and freed up more land for agricultural diversification. There is no denying. We had a plan in place for every sector of our economy. This government should never be allowed to say they inherited nothing. Right now, our country is struggling with increased crime. During our time in office, we tackled this issue head-on with a plan to better equip the force and improve morale. This is a continuous journey, as there is no easy fix for crime. But we made inroads to build a better crime fighting and solving police department. The CCT cameras initiative, our work at the forensic lab, ensuring police officers had insurance protection, the reestablishment of the K-9 unit. All these initiatives and more were not about overnight successes. They were part of a strategic plan to improve the crime and justice system overall. We're also pleased that our efforts with the United States, while in government, resulted in the relaxing of the Leahy law measures, and stemming from our negotiations in December of 2021, it was announced that after years of being banned, our police finally were being allowed to participate in the U.S. Southern Command's trade wind exercises. We support plans to continue building a new police headquarters, which we started, and a new courthouse. We hope projects which we started to assist at-risk young people will move forward, as these are essential in crime prevention. Citizen safety is a top priority for us as an opposition, as it was in government, and we pledge our support to initiatives that will assist our nation in addressing this scourge. Like many of you, I watched the Prime Minister's New Year's address, eager to hear about plans for the future. But there were none. Once again, all we heard from the Labour Party are complaints. A list of the symptoms, but no solutions. There was no mention of the $1,500 in the relief, or even the payment of income tax returns for people who owed under $5,000, both of which were promised within the first 100 days. The Prime Minister never mentioned the promised bonus for the frontline workers or the removal of the income tax for persons earning less than $4,000. No mention either of the promised removal of the property tax. In fact, in the speech, the Prime Minister amended his own election tagline, but that is for another time. We must get down to the urgent business of this country. Someone recently reminded me that while in office, I shied away from ever saying we were in power. That's because I never believed that we held the power. We were in the service to the people of St. Lucia, as we are now more than ever. And with God's guidance, we walk that path faithfully. The truth is that the power in people is stronger than the people in power. Learning this can sometimes be humbling, but if we as leaders stay true to this, we can build a stronger nation. I once again call on all St. Lucians to do what we must to see our country succeed. I call on civil society to play their part and not to be afraid to speak up for what is right. I encourage the various groups that have already begun participating in nation building by launching letter writing campaigns. And I very much look forward to continuing my engagements with youth groups, women's groups, and other associations. While we are only two of us in Parliament, we represent over 70% who did not vote or voted against the St. Lucia Labour Party. As a leader of opposition and a worker for life, I pledge my commitment to the people of St. Lucia that we will be vigilant and demand the highest standards of good governance. We will not be able to do this alone. The time will come when we will need you to lend your voice. The St. Lucia Labour Party must never be allowed to forget that a supermajority in Parliament does not give them the mandate to do whatever they want. The time will come for all of us to join and fight for our beloved country. The power in people is stronger than the people in power. May God bless you all, and may God continue to bless our beautiful island, St. Lucia. Happy New Year to all.